Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great weekend or week or whenever you're watching this. But today we're going to do a special video. We're going to get into the world of MIDI. If you've been following me on my YouTube or on my Instagram, you know that I have had a MIDI controller on my board for a number of years now. But before all of that, I was very unenthused of the idea of switching to MIDI because I understand the concepts and all the things that come wrapped around MIDI that just make it hard to adapt. So for a long time, I was actually against trying to do any kind of MIDI controllers or anything like that, just because of the front loading of the working and the programming and all this stuff. And I just didn't want to feel like I was confined into a box. But today I wanted to show you how I use my MIDI controller and how I make my flow easier for myself as someone who plays in a more spontaneous environment where verses and choruses and bridges and tags are just not all aligned every week. I wanted to show you how I use my board for these spontaneous moments to make it easier for myself. So today we're going to go through and I'm going to show you my MC6 Pro and how I have it laid out. And then we're going to jump over to the computer and I'm actually going to show you some of the programming I have so that you can adapt the same stuff to yours if you would like. So let's jump right into this. All right, so before I start showing everything, let's do a quick overview and show you how I have this ran. Here is the current, this is my home page, this is where I usually live. You've got delays, you have this thing that says HX1, you have an HX stomp, then you have this area here that says Verbzilla and has an arrow up and an arrow down, and then obviously tap tempo here. So obviously this is tap tempo. It sends MIDI clock to all of my MIDI things. So there's MIDI clock being sent here to the L cap and to the timeline. So when I tap here, it will send the tempo. Speed it up. Now there's been instances where I've tapped this out and I'm like 1 or 2 BPMs a little bit too slow or too fast. I don't know if it's just Morningstar or whatever. When I had my Sailor Quartz, it was spot on. But for some reason, the Morningstar is just like a BPM too slow sometimes. If I'm supposed to be tapping 80, it'll be like 79. And then that bothers me. So I have this thing now set up where I hold it for a few seconds there. I get out. It brings me to the MIDI clock window here, this section, and I can either increase it or decrease it. So I'll increase it by that, hit start, and we're in 80. Hit exit, and then I can continue to use this for other tap tempo, for other songs or anything like that. I don't preset tempos for songs and stuff because it's just too much for my church. We can plan 3 songs and we can only end up doing 1 song or like 1.5. So that's my tap tempo. Then up here is the delays section. So when I grab this, it bank jumps to a different page and it brings me to my divisions. So I still have the same tap tempo feature here. I can tap whatever, I can hold it and it'll bring me to my window. But I also have, it's always on dotted eighth. So it's on my normal dotted eighth delay. And then if I go to eighth, it changes the timeline to eighth. It also changes the delay in the stomp to correspond with the eighth note up here. So now this is quarter note triplets. This is eighth note. And then when I change it here, it's quarter and then it changes down there as well. So all these are together with each other. Usually I play eighth and 6/8, so I don't play eighth normally. I play eighth on most of my 4/4 songs, and if we're in like a 3/4 or 6/8 feel, then I will do eighth, because if you do eighth and you tap every third, it's still dotted eighth sound. So then you got quarter, but I typically live here. Then this button is a dry button, so it kills the delay here, it kills the delay here, and then it brings my MercuryX down to a very small hall all at once. And then when I bring it back, it's all back to where it was. And this is my home button. And when I hit the home, it brings me back to my home page. Now let's move to this button here that says HX1. A couple of these ideas I actually took from my buddy Sam, who's on here on YouTube. I watched his video a few times, and I actually hit him up because I was confused myself. And I tried to implement some of the ideas that he had because it's just cool. I will probably link his video down in the description so that you can go and watch his video. Go subscribe to his channel because he drops way better content than me. But these were his ideas and I stole them, and so this is no credit towards me, all credit towards him. This is the HX button. So on my HX Stomp, most of the presets stay the same. They are pretty much laid out exactly the same. I've got a couple effects here. I've got a couple effects that I'll show you later on here, but I like to occasionally do something different every once in a while. This button here actually cycles the presets in the HX Stomp. So I have 3 presets. So this is AG pitch. So there's actually an extra pitch block in here that I use for whammy stuff. And then I hit it, it brings me to HX2, which then jumps this up to AG trim. And then there's instead of the pitch block, there is a tremolo block in here that I like to use. And then the last one, HX3, this one's AG auto wall. And obviously there's an auto wall block in there that I like to use. And then when I hit it again, it brings it back to 1. So these just cycle through those. You can have as many as you want. I just chose 3 because these are the 3 I pretty much stick on. And then that's that. This brings me to another bank. That brings me to my HX Stomp thing. Obviously with HX Stomp, you only get 3 foot switches unless you have the little aux switch. But even then, you can only have 5 foot switches total, but you can have a total of 8 blocks. So it doesn't always equate to everything you can do. So that's why I run Midi specifically for this. So I've got my 3 blocks here that I like to grab, and that changes whatever weekly, however, but these blocks stay the same. I've got a chorus that triggers the chorus, vibrato that triggers the vibrato, and then a flanger that triggers the flanger. And then this aux switch I just named it aux because it turns on the block just depending on which. So this one turns on the pitch, but if I'm on the next preset on the tremolo, it'll actually turn on the tremolo. And then obviously if I go to the auto wall, it turns on the auto wall. Now I know you're probably wondering what LFO is. Now this is a special thing that I like to do. Once we get into the screen sharing on my computer, I'll show you kind of how I ran it. For the pitch, it controls the actual position of the pitch. If I have the pitch on and I hit this button, it like ramps it up like it would be like an expression pedal, and then I hit it again and it ramps it down like an expression pedal. So, and then when I go to say the tremolo, it does the same thing on the tremolo, except this time I have to hold it. So if I hold it, it starts to slowly ramp up on the speed for the tremolo, and then when I hold it again, it slows down the speed of the tremolo. So that is all that in here, and then obviously I've got the home button that brings me back to home. Now lastly is this is my reverb section. This is another Sam special. This was his idea and I just stole it because it was an awesome idea, so I suggest you steal it too. This is just a bank up and down. Not really bank, it's more of a preset up and down. I'll show you. So I named it Verbzilla because if you remember the old Line 6 Verbzilla, they were pretty cool and I thought it was interesting. I like naming stuff, random stuff once in a while. So this is just called Verbzilla, and then it shows here the number, the preset that I'm on, which correlates with the preset here. So when I hit the down button, it'll go to 3. It brings that down to 3. 2, 1, and then if I go up, it continues to go up. I have it set to 12. You can set it to how many you want. If you want it to only do 3 times, you want to do 6 times, you want to do 12 times. Mine is 12, so I'm using 12 different reverb presets, and when I get to 12, it actually loops back to 1. And then there's another cool thing, like if you quickly want to get to something, you just hold down and it'll speedily go through the presets that you're trying to get to. So that's how it is on the MC6 Pro on the actual unit itself. Now let's jump over to the computer and I'll show you how I have this set up. All right, guys, so now we are on the Morningstar editor. I wanted to show you how I have a lot of this stuff set up so that you can kind of copy and paste the settings for yourself. And if you want to use any of these ideas, I hope that it's helpful. So this is my main homepage. I'm on bank 1 here. This is tap tap. So it is my tap tempo, foot switch 1. And if I press, it will do the MIDI clock. And if you do a long press, it will show the MIDI clock where you can get in there and do the increments. And what you want to do is have this section here, use current BPM setting on, so that when you go in there, it'll default to 0. If you have this on no, it will default to 0. So then you have to like tap it again, and it's a pain in the butt. So make sure that this is on yes, and then you save it as is. If you want to show the little percentage on the thing and stuff like that, you just do this little percentage BPM, just like that. And then you have your tap tempo. And then you can copy and paste this whole thing anywhere and you'll have a tap tempo anywhere. So let's show you how to do the scroll on the HX. So it showed HX1, HX2, and HX3. So this is the button. It says HX, and then that %G shows you the scroll that you're on. So you have to have that to be able to scroll with it. And then all you do is set it up just like this. So you have it where it's a program change. You have to have message scroll on. It's a program change for the whatever MIDI channel you're trying to use, and then you just select how many you want to do. So it does 0, does 1, 2, and then if you wanted 5 of them, you'd have more, and it'll continually scroll as long as you have the message scroll here. It will scroll through those many presets, and it'll stay in line with the number there. That's how you do that. Let's go to the next one. This is the Verbzilla. This is actually the up button. So if you see /U, that is actually the sign on the thing for the up. So this is the way to scroll up. Now to scroll down, it's literally just the exact opposite of what you're going to do here. So this is scroll up, and then I'll jump over and show you scroll down. So all you do is you set a PC number scroll, and you PC number scroll, and then you increase and send, and then you have it to wrap around. And then if you want it to long, like if you hold it down and then it'll go fast, then you just do the long press scroll, PC number, and then you copy the same thing. Then it's just the opposite for bank down. So this is the corresponding button down for that. And this is just, all this is saying is it's this right here, number sign, %E0. That's what you need for it to show what number you are on, what preset number you're on. So it corresponds with what preset number you were on with maybe your Big Sky or maybe your Mercury like I have. And then the /D section here is just the sign for the down sign. And then this is the same thing, PC number scroll. And then this one's just decrease and send, but everything else is exactly the same, decrease and send. Now this counter here, this is the counter that you need to have set up for it to scroll. So all you do is go into the controller settings here, and you're going to scroll down till you see scroll counters. And I know this might look like it's a lot, but all we need to focus on is counter 0. So the minimum it will do is number 1. The maximum it will do is number 12. Now, when I first start up my power, I plug in my power to my thing, it actually starts on 3, but I have it to actually start on bank 4, just so it'll save. Say you're on preset 12 last time, and I unplug it, plug my board back in. The Mercury remembers I was on preset 12, but the MC6 Pro does not. So the way I got around that is I put this to start on 3. And then I went to the bank and I did a startup value. And there's a bunch of startup values here. I'll go through them in a minute, but the one you want to pay attention to is down here at the bottom. And it just says on interbank, execute only once, because you don't want to do it every time you enter the bank. Execute only once. It engages a preset. You go to the bank one, Verbzilla, and this is the preset up 1. So it starts on preset 3, but when the thing turns on, it goes into that bank, the home bank, it will press it and then it'll initiate and start on bank 4. So all the time when I start it up, it goes through, I plug it in, and it's always on number 4. I have a bunch of, you probably see a bunch of these delays in here. What these delays are doing is basically delaying the time to engage this preset, because my number 1 in the MIDI chain is actually my HX Stomp, and it actually takes the longest to turn on. So if you don't have these delays on, it'll turn on super fast, and then it won't send the right time to the Mercury, because the Mercury is actually last. So I have just these delays. The max is 1200 milliseconds. So I had to do a bunch of them here. You see all these delays for this last message to send. So just so that the HX Stomp can power on, and then it'll send that message to the Mercury. Now, the other things I have on here for the bank is, if you like the look of the black screen, you can have this do as well. You do enter bank. All these should be enter only once, execute only once, utility, and then you can change the background color. You can change it to any color you want, gray color, green, blue, whatever. You can change the letters too. Down here is the MIDI clock. This will turn the MIDI clock to 70, because by default the MIDI clock always starts at 0. Then you got to bend down or tap it out a tempo just to get started. So a good tempo for me was 70. So every time it turns on, it starts sending MIDI clock at 70. Now let's jump over to delays. I showed you that I use snapshots on the HX Stomp to correspond the time signatures of the delays in the HX Stomp, but it also does all the other time on the timeline and anything else like that. But in order for it to always have, when you power it up, by default, it does not, on the MC6 Pro, it does not have a preset selected. So it was just a pet peeve of mine that it was that way. So I had set it up, because I always wanted to start, for me, I always wanted it to start on dotted eighth. So if you go into the bank settings for the home page, so when I power it on, it will engage. I have it to execute only once, engage preset, bank 2, for the delays, the dotted eighth preset, and then I have that one on a release button for some reason instead of a press. So you just keep it the same. And so it doesn't do anything inside the HX Stomp, because HX Stomp will save. If you start at number 1 snapshot, it'll always load at number 1 snapshot. But for my eyes, I liked it that the button was already selected and I knew that I was on there. So it just does that for me. So it took me a while to figure out how to get the corresponding on the MC6 Pro to get the lights to stay the same. So if I press the dotted eighth, it will disengage on the MC6 Pro any of the other buttons. So then if I jump to the quarter, it will disengage the quarter. And then if I jump to the eighth, it will disengage the quarter note. So you didn't have like 3 buttons on or didn't know which one you were on. So between these 3 buttons, it will toggle each one individually and turn off the other one. And the way to do that is you go down to here. This is for the dotted eighth one, and then you'll do one for each one. So I'll show you for dotted eighth. You do a set toggle, and it disengages the toggle. So E and F right here, it disengages these. And then when I go to here, and I do the same thing, set toggle, disengage, it will disengage C, and then it will disengage F. And then the last one, if you go here, it will disengage C and disengage E. So that's all you got to do for those to disengage each other and they stay intact and not accidentally have two buttons on at the same time and you don't know which snapshot you're on. So Okay, guys, so I realized when I was editing this video that I forgot to show one thing, and it's the dry button here. It's a super simple button, but I feel like I needed to show you if you adapt the same reverb style like I do, where you have the up and down arrows and then it shows you the preset you're on. So if you use a kill dry or a dry button like I do, then you'll definitely have to set it up this way in order for the reverb to go back to where you had it before you hit the button. So if I hit the button, it obviously right here, MIDI 4, it brings me to PC number 1. But it does, the Morningstar doesn't remember what preset you had selected before. So there's no like program change to go back to previous whatever. So it doesn't do that. So if you hit it again, it'll just go nowhere, or you can just have it to, you can have it where you hit it again, it'll go to the preset you select. Say if it was like 3 or 4, then it'll go back to 3 or 4. But I didn't want that. I wanted it to go back to say if I was on 12 and then I went to 1 here, and when I pressed it again, I wanted it to go back to 12. So the only way you could get that to do that is to go down here to this section down here. It's two buttons. So it's doing basically release, it's doing engage preset, and it will do the Verbzilla up and then again the Verbzilla down. So it's this is just the bank it's on. This is the buttons that it's doing, and it's doing a press action for both of those. So it does both of these at the exact same time. And in the MIDI world, that's super fast, so you don't even see it. You don't even notice it. And whenever you hit the dry off, it'll bring you back to 12. If I was on 8 and I hit the button, it'll bring me to the MIDI channel 1, the PC number 1. But when I hit it to turn off, it'll go down here. Quickly press it real quick, and it'll press up, press down, and it'll bring me right back to where I was, which would be 8. So that's how I did that to get around it. And so that's all you got to do for that to work if you use the same way I'm using my reverbs. Now, last but not least, this is probably what most of you are probably watching this video for, because it took me quite a while to figure this out, and it still doesn't work exactly the way I want it to work. A real expression would actually be better, but this is just the way I can make it work for now because I can't fit an expression pedal on my board. So this is the LFO button. Now this first section here is a long press. Both of these are long presses. If you do a momentary long press release, and then you do another one, say this one's a press and this is a release, it won't work. Trust me, I've tried. I've done everything I could do. If you have two LFOs on the same thing, for some reason in the Morningstar, it does not like it and it will not work. So this is the only way I could get it to work. Trust me, I went through all of these different things trying to get something to work so that I could just momentarily press it, hold it, and then release it on all of them, and it would work every time, no matter, only depending on which preset I was on the HX Stomp. So this is for the tremolo. I'm using engine 1, engine 2. So I'll show you the engines in a minute, but this is how you do it. You do a long press, CC wave generator. You hit obviously start. Don't worry about any of that. And then this is the cycle. So this means it's faster or slower. If you want it to be super fast, you go down here. You want it to be slower, you go down there. And then you can also multiply the speed of this. So you can go up to 8. So it'll be even faster, a little bit faster. So this is for the tremolo. So I just want it to slowly ramp up and slowly ramp down. So it only does it once. If you do perpetual, or however you say that, it'll continually go up, and it'll continue, just keep going up and up and up and up and up over and over and over until you stop it. So I have it here. It's a toggle button here. Engine 1, it does it up, and then I press it again for position 2 here. Everything's exactly the same. It just does engine 2, which then brings it back down. And then the same thing for here, this is for the whammy section. This is the fastest you can make it go, all the way times 8. It's still not super fast, but it's as fast as you can do it. So same kind of thing. Once engine 1, speed here, multiplier. I have a different CC number assigned for that preset. And then same thing here, engine 2, and then that's all you do. So once you have all this set up, with the engines and everything, you're going to go over to the controller settings and you're going to go to CC waveform generator, and all you're going to worry about, because there's a bunch of stuff you can do here, all you're going to worry about is engine 1 and engine 2. You're just going to do sawtooth up, and you're going to start at the minimum CC value of 0 and then a maximum of 127. And then for engine 2, sawtooth down, opposite 127.0. So that's all you got to do there. You hit save. I think you have to like cycle the Morningstar for it to save that way. And then that's it. And then once you have this all set up correctly, you can do the same thing with your Morningstar MC6 or MC6 Pro or MC3 or even the MC8. They all do the same thing. So, well, guys, that's it. I hope that was easy to follow. I know it was a lot of information and it was probably a little bit of a boring video, but I wanted to show you how I use my Morningstar MC6 Pro. If you have any questions, you can put it in the comments below, or you can DM me and I'll get to you as fast as I can. I will get through and answer any of your questions, or maybe you're having some troubleshooting issues. I know the Midi stuff can be very daunting sometimes. Trust me, I have my fair share of headaches. Maybe if it interests you guys, I will put this complete show file up on my website that you can download if you have the MC6 Pro. I don't think it will work on any of the MC6s or MC8s, obviously, or MC3s. But if you have the MC6 Pro and you want to have this layout and maybe tweak it to yours idea, maybe if enough people want to, I'll just put it up on the website and then you can download it for free and load it to your Morningstar. Well, that's it, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you like the content or you like what I'm producing and just putting out there, please like and subscribe to the channel so that I can continue to do more and we can continue to grow. If you have any ideas for upcoming videos or anything like that you want to see, maybe other stuff with guitars or maybe some MD talk, because I do a lot of music directing at my church, just a bunch of other things, just drop it in the comments or DM me for any ideas or anything like that. So yeah, that's gonna wrap this up. I'll see you guys in the next video.